Well, hello everybody! Welcome back to G Bear's Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert. Yep, we're in the garden house. I was out here today watering everything. We're getting a little bit of drying. It's been really hot and dry lately. And Andy's gone, and I fell a little bit behind on some of my chores, but I'm picking up on them. So I gave this garden a good soaking today. You can see my corn there in the back all popped up and growing up pretty darn good. Yep, they're toddlers already. So I've got some of them out there that probably 10, 12 inches tall already. So we'll be seeing some corn out of that. All right, but everything was really dry in here, and I made sure I soaked it right down to where I saw water coming out underneath the wood at the bottom. So the ground is completely drenched. Got some pepper plants here looking good. I haven't seen any flowers yet, but we'll see those pretty soon. And something's been getting in here and eating at my leaves. I'm finding some of the leaves here are being chewed up. But yeah, those are my radishes, my beets. This carrot is way past pull out time, so I'm amazed that it's even still there. But yeah, I'm gonna have to pull that one up, and I might have to stew that one if I want to use it. Onions looking good, kale's looking good. Plenty of coriander seeds here, and my big onion down there that's ready to come out too, because I got a couple of little ones coming up. Down in here had some carrots, but I think the heat got to them. The two little tomato plants there, ASAP. I'm going to put those into the main garden here and get those. Give them a little bit of room to spread their roots out, because they can become root bound very quickly in small pots. You see them in the stores, and they got these big plants in these little tiny pots, and everybody goes, "Ooh, look at that! I've got a good start on that tomato plant." Not a good idea buying one like that, because they're root bound. And when you get them really big like that and you transplant them, the shock is too much for the plant, and it doesn't have enough root space already established to bring the plant back. So a lot of times you'll see a lot of the plant die off. You'll see a lot of stuff fall off of it, and you won't get very much production out of it. So you don't want to really go into a store and buy a tomato plant that has tomatoes on it. You want to get them young and strong and get them out of those pots and get them into ground as quick as possible. You see my tomato plants here are really producing tomatoes. I got loads of tomatoes. I'm going to probably have to can some. I don't know what happened to my apple tree over there. It started drying out, and then all of a sudden I got some fresh growth out the ends of the branches. We'll have to see. And this cucumber, a little while ago it came in, and this one just fell over. You can see some of the grabbers here are all dried out, so it wouldn't hold on to the wire, but that one's climbing up. And this tomato plant is almost at the roof. It's going to be sticking through pretty soon. So I would say that's probably a 6-foot tall plant. All right. This one's doing great. It's bushed out really well. Got plenty of tomatoes on it, and I've got a bunch of them set here ready to come out. And I've got new flowers getting ready to open up here. Got flowers open on that branch over there, and so yeah, I'm doing okay on tomatoes. As you can see, I got a bunch of little ones here, so my little toothbrush did its job. I've got to get in and prune these. There's way too much on there. One thing I wanted to mention, I prune tomato plants. Yes, you got to know one thing. You can prune indeterminate plants, tomato plants, but you cannot prune determinate plants. There is a difference. Make sure you know which one you have. A determinate plant grows to a certain size, produces fruit, and dies. Indeterminate plants can grow and grow and grow, and you can cut off what they call suckers. And a sucker is, you see this this little skinny one that's growing up out of here, right above one of these branches. Okay, so that sucker right there will be another branch, but it's going to steal from this one. So that's got to come off of there. So you can pinch those right off like that. But on an indeterminate plant, this can grow into another tomato plant. So you can find a place in the soil, like, oh, excuse me, right here. Poke a finger hole in there. Drop that down inside and bury it deep. Tomato plants like to be buried deep. When you buy them in the store, make sure you take off the bottom bunch of leaves and bury part of the stem down deeper into the ground. Don't just put them in the same level as a pot. The thing with trees, your trees, you never bury those deeper than they are in a pot. But with tomato plants, you want to put those down deep. They will, especially indeterminates, all these little hairs on the side of the branch here will actually start spreading out and become roots into the ground. So you can actually lay these tomato plants down on the ground and they'll keep grabbing root as they grow. Problem with that is your tomatoes lay in the ground and they get the white bottoms and not very pleasant to look at, not very tasty. Hanging them up like this and tying them up is the best bet. And I don't really like wires, but I had wire, so I used it. I like using twine, packaging twine. That works best. Okay, all right. Pepper plant, loaded with jalapenos and new ones coming out. So yeah, that one's doing really good. These pepper plants are starting to come up higher. Everything was dry down here. I had to really get the water going on it. My aloe vera, doing great. Andy needed some for a couple of little cuts. This avocado tree right now is 16 inches tall, 17 inches tall at the center. And it's got a few dry leaves on it, but it's doing okay. All right, coming around here. This is my cantaloupe. And yeah, it's starting to get some baby cantaloupes on it all over the place. And this one is watermelon. And you're thinking, well, what the heck? Well, look inside of here. There's cantaloupe. There's a little cantaloupe down there. There's a little cantaloupe down there. And there's a little watermelon down there. Hey, I got watermelon. All right. Never think that you'd grow watermelon out in the desert now, would you? Especially at 100 degrees. My grapevine on this side, he's really climbing up there. He's loving this atmosphere. So I have a feeling that one's going to be a good grapevine. He's going to get up into the trellis up there and give me a good shade cover pretty soon. This is cantaloupe running this way, and the cantaloupe from hell, it's starting to climb the pole. All right, my tangerine tree is starting to come back. It dried out too. This Chinese pepper plant, loaded. I mean, loaded with these peppers. And these are not hot. These are sweet. These are great sweet peppers. And then you see big one down there. They got a little bit of a firmer texture than a bell pepper. But boy, are they just sweet and delicious. They're great in salads. All right, coming out of the place, my pear tree. The two pears are still here. This one started catching up with this one because it's hanging down. And this one was actually crossed over this branch and it was holding it pointing upward. So I needed to come down and hang. Your fruit needs to hang at a certain point and the weight will pull it down to that point. And then it'll take the water and nutrients up the branches and go down into the fruit and then enlarge the fruit. So that's going to be a pretty good thing to get going. All right, let's get out of here. I'm going to move on down the line and show you a few things. A little while ago, I had to go up there and pull a mylar balloon out of a bush. I hate those mylar balloons. And I know hate's a harsh word, but I hate those mylar balloons. People buy them, they think, oh, they're so cute. And the kids love them, they play with them, but the kid does not want to keep it. They release them into the air. And what do? They get into power lines, they cause problems. If one of those came in and hooked itself onto the blades of my turbine up there, it could throw that turbine completely out of whack, cause a lot of damage, maybe even a fire. Well, I don't know why people do stuff like that. Well, it's probably because they are what they call ignorant. They weren't taught. Not everything that somebody sells in a store is good. Like this battery. This is the battery came out of that tent camper. All right, Marine Deep Cycle, 120 reserve capacity minutes. Wow, sounds like a great battery. Big. I could almost hardly get it out of that case, that the little holder that it's in the side of the camper. It was in there so tight that there's just no way to move it around. I had to actually work it out with screwdrivers to get it up, and just barely had enough clearance to get it out of there. All right, this thing is not holding a charge. When I pulled it out, it only had 4 volts in it. I put a solar charge on it all day yesterday, got it up to, well, it was charging at 13 volts, but it only went up to 10 volts. And then this morning it dropped back down to 6 volts. So it's not holding a charge, but it is a flooded battery. So I'm going to pull the caps on it, put a tablespoon of Epsom salt down each one of the cells, because it is full of water. It wasn't dried out. I'll put some Epsom salt down each one of those, and I'll put another charge on it, see if it holds a charge. If it doesn't, it's a core. That's all there is to it. And I've got a few cores around here, so those will be going for my batteries in there when I finish my battery bank. I still wanted minimum of 2, ideally 4 more batteries to finish this system off, and that'll give me all of the power that I originally my math originally said I was going to need. So that's still in the planning, and I'm getting along with what I've got. I just make sure that I just don't overuse my electricity, and I live with what I've got. All right, so with all of that being said, let's move on over to the tent camper. All right, the girls doing great. A little hot for them. I fill their swimming pool. They're standing in it, cooling their feet. They like it, but they got the shade this time of day, so they're going to enjoy the shade. Hope the wind doesn't drown me out too badly. I'm walking right into it, of course, and I didn't bring my windproof microphone. All right, look at this. Everything nice and squared off, and I put the supports underneath it to make sure all the parts were here. And yeah, they were all here, and it's working. All right. The other thing I did was, you notice that before in the other picture, the canvas wasn't tucked into the door frame. Well, it wouldn't tuck in. So I had to actually, the plastic bracket that held the top of the canvas up here up to the roof, all the staples were pulled out, so I had to repair that. And same thing on this side. And on this side, everything had pulled out, and this is a stop screw that's supposed to hold it from doing that. And the stop screw, this was out from behind the stop screw, and it had slid over. So I got that fixed. I still got to do some alignment on the door. I'm going to take you inside and show you around here. All right, there's the water tank down there and the water pump down there. And that's the battery box. There's the wires that come in. And there's actually a inverter in here that inverts the 12 volt to, or lets you switch from the 120 volts to 12 volts, so you can run different things. Up here on the roof, it's got these old fluorescent lights. They're all junk. That's all coming out. I'm going to replace those with, everything's going to be LED in here. And the other thing was the clips from a lot of these curtains had come out of the guide, so I put those all back in. And then this metal bracket up here had gotten rusted, and the screws had come out of the wood. So I fixed that and repainted the bracket silver so that it looks a little bit better. And that's what holds this bar in place, that holds that wing out. And then I opened all the windows to air it out a little bit in here. And then it's got these cabinets. This is a closet where you can hang some clothes. And this thing will slide along a rack there and then go down to the ground here so that you can lower the top, because you can't lower the top with that up there like that. All right, and the same thing with this cabinet and this cabinet. These things are on a rail here with rollers, so you can slide them out to the center, both of them up against the stops here. And then when you drop the top down, they go in between the stove and the sink. So I'll be getting the refrigerator all cleaned up and the stove all cleaned up. I'm going to make sure everything works. Like I said, I'm going to convert everything over to LED where possible. It does have a radio in here. It's a 120 volt radio. It has its own little antenna on there. Digital clock radio yet. Of course, you're going to have to set the clock every time you stop because it's 120 volts and that you don't have that running normally. But yeah, that bottle right there connects to the sink discharge on the outside of the camper, so that if you're using the sink, you're not just dumping water on the ground. It goes into that little discharge unit. Yeah, things like that. Just nice little camper. Needs a little bit of work, and I figure that I'm probably going to end up to get it exactly the way I want it, I'm probably going to put in anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 to get this thing really back up to par. The floor needs to come out. I'm going to have to be putting a new type of floor. This is a stick down vinyl and it's peeling up all over the place. So that's all coming out. It's going to be redone. And I don't know. I'll have to see what I'm going to do for flooring on here. I can't go anything too thick because cabinet doors don't have much clearance at the bottom. So I'll probably have to go back in with vinyl, but I'm going to go in with the good commercial vinyl, not peel and stick. All right, there's a mirror there, and that's a little flip down unit. Andy showed that to me. I almost missed it. That's like a vanity where you get up in the morning, you can shave and brush your hair, so you have a mirror you can see in. There's a bunch of stuff that he left behind here. Been sitting in here for a bunch of years. It's no good. I'll be bagging it all up and taking it to my friend's house and putting it in their trash can. All right, but otherwise, it's a nice little camper. Now, that being said, I was asked how much I would take for it as is. Well, as is would be a problem because this is one of the tires that we drove up on, and I have to redo the bearing on there, and the tire is really cracked. It's got a couple of really big cracks in there. That tire will not last for somebody to haul it out of here. So I did look up, and I did find tires online where I can get the tires changed over on it, make sure it has a good spare, and 2 brand new tires on the trailer. And then I'll get 2 new propanes, and I'll redo that bearings, the inner and outer bearings, and repack the bearings on the other side. With that all in mind, it would be roadworthy, and somebody could come and pick it up, or I could meet them somewhere and then swap it over. So the price I would ask right now, as is, and like I said, as is means with those few modifications that I talked about, I would take $1,750. All right, and that would have to be a cash deal. I'm not going to meet somebody somewhere and take a check, have them drive away with it, and have a check bounce on me. So it'll be a cash deal if anybody's interested in it. $1,750 as is. A few fixes in it. I'll even throw in upgraded propane bottles. So that's it. G-Bear reminding you, please give me a thumbs up down there. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to share. And this is G Bear signing off.